My name is Timothy Amerit. I'm a senior state attorney in the office of the DPP. I'm also the head of the private prosecutions liaison and coordination unit in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. This unit basically is mandated to liaise with the private prosecutors and coordinate with them for purposes of helping them to foster the work of private prosecutions and build on the cases that they have instituted in court. We offer guidance, we offer skills, we give knowledge, we help in investigations and evidence gathering, among other things, but also to change the mindset of prosecutors in as far as prosecutions is concerned, particularly prosecutions which have been instituted privately.
Could you tell us what the legal basis for private prosecutions is in Uganda?
You know, Article 120 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda creates the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. It is the principal prosecutions body in the country, but not the ultimate prosecutions body in the country. Among other ways in which prosecutions can be instituted, the Magistrates Courts Acts proposes 3 ways in which a criminal proceedings can be instituted. 1 is by a public prosecutor. 2 is by a police officer. Then thirdly, by a private prosecutor. Now, the Constitution says that the DPP can take over any matter that has been instituted by any person or authority. That means the DPP, in effect, is not the only person or entity that can institute a criminal proceeding. And the law is very clear. Private prosecution can be instituted either by a complaint on oath before a magistrate or by a private party appearing before a magistrate and orally instituting their case, and the magistrate will write down the case that has been brought before him or her and register it in court, and the case begins that way.
So what has been the practice of private prosecutions in Uganda?
What has been available in Uganda is that many a time prosecutions are instituted privately. Unfortunately, we have not had a good record on these prosecutions being concluded to the logical conclusion. In fact, as far as the records that I have are concerned, we have only had 1 prosecution that was instituted privately and concluded to a logical conclusion. Incidentally, that private prosecution ended in a conviction, and that is kudos to the private prosecutor. What has happened is that many a time when such matters are instituted, for one reason or another, the office of the DPP takes over the cases, and ultimately most of them have ended either in dismissal or withdrawal by the DPP. So we've not registered a lot of landmark successes in seeing private prosecutions to the logical conclusion.
You've been talking about how to breathe life into private prosecutions. Perhaps you can tell us more about when the private prosecutions unit was established and what you have been doing since the establishment of the unit.
The unit, the private prosecutions liaison and coordination unit was established by the Honorable, the Lady Justice Jane Francis Abodo, late last year in the office of the DPP. And the purpose of the unit is to bridge a gap that has existed between the private prosecutors and the public prosecutors in the office of the DPP, but also for effective management, for effective coordination, liaison, for purposes of rendering help, assistance, guidance to the private prosecutors, and sharing expertise in prosecution to see to it that private prosecutions can also be prosecuted to the logical conclusion. The mandate of the unit is not to take over and discontinue private prosecutions. Far from it. The mandate of the unit is to breathe life into the practice of private prosecutions. I guide them that way, and it's been very eventful because we have seen very many cases lately progress, and the rate at which the Office of the DPP has taken over cases has far reduced ever since the private prosecutions liaison and coordination unit has been established, because the DPP has been sending those cases to me, and I render advice to the DPP. I render an opinion to the DPP, and the DPP chooses what to do. But most times the DPP has left the private prosecutions to continue. We have several of the private prosecutions right now in court that are still in the hands of private prosecutors. But also among others is that where the private prosecutors need help in order to get evidence, we normally work with them together with the police in order to give them investigative arm to be able to secure the evidence that they need. Some of the nature of evidence can be forensic evidence. Some of it could be in the form of cyber evidence. Some of it could be in form of getting data from telecom companies to secure that evidence through the police. And when police gathers that evidence, they furnish it to the private prosecutors and they proceed with the inquiries. But also, on the other hand, I have also been engaging my colleagues, the public prosecutors, to embrace this practice of private prosecutions, to tell them that this private prosecutions is within the law. It is not a creature of the unit or a creature of the DPP. It's a creature of the law. So to change their mindset and tell them, once a private prosecution has been instituted, a private prosecutor is not a competitor in the criminal justice system. A private prosecutor is a complementer in the criminal justice system, complements what you are doing. And once they come, it's not that they do not have confidence in public prosecutions per se, but they are giving an alternative of prosecutions. And it's always good to give leeway for alternatives to be tested, because justice does not come on a straight path. It can come in whichever way. And if one can get justice through a private prosecution, there's no problem with that. What matters is justice at the end of it all. Our trophy is justice. Our trophy is not the means through which we get that justice. And private prosecutions is one of those good ways. Yes.
Could you give us a glimpse into the types of cases that have been tried under private prosecutions?
Yes, there have been quite a category of cases that have come up under private prosecutions. Some of such that have been instituted in the anti-corruption division of the High Court or Magistrates Court include money laundering cases. Many of them have been in respect to that. Others have been abuse of office in the office of the still in the anti-corruption division of the High Court. In these other courts, we have been seeing various cases. Right now, we have a case in court of molesting the modesty of a woman. We have cases to do with forgery of title. We have cases to do with obtaining money by false pretense. We have cases to do with assault occasioning actual bodily harm. To mention but a few, there are really widespread kind of cases. So these are cases that touch the ordinary man. These are cases that affect me and you, in one way or the other. So private prosecutions is really one of those ways to get justice from the cases that happen on a daily basis.
Do you think it would be possible for international crimes to be charged and prosecuted privately in Uganda?
The law permits. It is possible. The question is what it takes for that plausibility to be there. Cases that are transnational or international in nature are complex related cases. These are cases that require a lot of logistics. These are cases that require a lot of intelligence. These are cases that require a lot of money. These are cases that require a lot of systematic movements. These are cases that require robust investigative arms. These are cases that require resources that may not be available to a person, an individual who is a private prosecutor. So the challenges are there in as far as investigation of such cases are concerned. These are cases that require, that cut into the sovereignty of states and may require you to get certain permissions from certain states. You may need to go to embassies of other states. You may need to reach out to the ministries of foreign affairs or the authorities of that country. And as when you go as an individual, you may not easily be welcomed. When you go when you want inquiries or evidence, you may not be easily welcomed. But ultimately, when you coordinate, cooperate, and work together with the persons that are in charge of the systems, with the persons that are in charge of investigations, once there is collaboration, once there is logistical support, once there is cooperation, and you're able to gather all the evidence that there is. And this can also work well when you work together with the civil society. The civil society is in charge of the rights of people, the society is in charge of the rights of victims, and those that fight for human rights, journalistic societies or persons that deal in journalism, because some of these people have a lot of information. When you work with such independent persons, you are able to gather a lot of information. Because as a private prosecutor, all you need is information that you can later tender as evidence in court. So if you can credibly work with them, get evidence which can be admissible in court, get witnesses who can come and testify to the evidence that you have gathered, why not? You can institute a private prosecution in court, have all the evidence availed in your complaint on oath, attached to your complaint on oath, have the magistrate, make a ruling on a case prima facie, to determine that you have sufficient evidence to prosecute this case. And after that is done, the magistrate will most likely have this matter committed to the High Court, and that will go to the International Crimes Division. And the accused person faces his day in court. So private prosecutions can work even in international related crimes, can work even in trans-international related crimes. There is no bar to private prosecutions on any nature of crime in Uganda. And I think it is about time we began supporting private prosecutions, whether individual as persons or as corporate bodies that come to institute private prosecutions for purposes of having accountability on perpetrators of crime in Uganda, so that we can have a crime-free society in our country.
Mr. Timothy Amerit, thank you so much for this interview.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.